Okay, I think I'll just get started with the presentation. And if there's anyone from the public who joins us later, I will, just a second. Trying to expand again. Can anyone see if we have any new attendees?
Just one, Steve. Gary Fraser.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Stephen Waller, and I would like to welcome members of the Loisdale Civic Association and neighbors of the site. Tonight, we will be discussing the plan amendment at 7501 Loisdale Road on behalf of the Fairfax County Department of Planning and Development. I'm also accompanied by Laura Arsenault and Megan Van Dam, who are also in the Department of Planning and Development's Planning Division. And we are also joined by a host of staff from other agencies who have been involved in the review of the proposed plan amendment. The 7.23 acre subject site is identified in county records as tax map parcels 90-4, double circle 1, parcels 3, 4, and 5, and it's located in the Lee District on the east side of Loisdale Road, which generally runs parallel with the northbound lane of Interstate 95. The Loisdale Estate subdivision is located just beyond Loisdale Park, which adjoins the site along borders to the north and east. There are 3 existing automobile dealerships located to the south. All 3 properties of the subject site are currently vacant and primarily wooded. And topography on this site varies and includes an area of steep slopes that decline down to the east, approaching Loisdale Park. These are a few photos that were taken from 4 directions to give an idea of the current conditions of the subject site. The next photos are taken toward the north and south on Loisdale Road, and then the driveway that will extend north from the existing auto dealerships and into the subject site. Finally, at the bottom right, the existing 10-foot wide trail that will extend across the frontage of the subject site is shown in this picture. On December 1st, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized consideration of a comprehensive plan amendment for the subject site with concurrent review of an application to rezone the property. The property's owner, Sheehy Loisdale Properties LLC, has applied to rezone the properties from C2 commercial and I3 industrial to the C8 commercial district with a special exception application to permit the operation of a vehicle sales and service facility and ancillary uses. The comprehensive plan is the county's long-range planning instrument, and some of the key purposes for the plan's policies and recommendations are listed in the text box to the left. The comprehensive plan's guidance is organized by countywide policy, area plans, planning districts, special planning areas, and planning sectors. The map on the slide shows the comprehensive land use recommendations, which are provided at the baseline for all properties in Fairfax County. The map is color-coded to identify recommendations for density, levels of residential use, mixed-use planning areas, and the placement for various types of non-residential uses throughout the county. Comprehensive plan guidance for the subject site is split between the Springfield East Communities Planning Sector and the I-95 Corridor Industrial Area. And the green coloring on the comprehensive plan land use map represents the baseline recommendation for public parks on parcel 3. The parcel also has a plan option to allow development as low-rise transitional office use with conditions for compatibility with the neighboring residential uses. Major objectives for the Springfield community planning sector includes improving circulation, maintaining appropriate transitions between varying land uses to mitigate adverse impacts, and preserving the stable single-family detached residential neighborhoods such as Loisdale Estates from adverse impacts associated with non-residential development. This parcel makes up the northern part. The parcel 3, which makes up the northern part of the subject site, is again zone C2. Parcels 4 and 5 are both planned for industrial use at an intensity of up to 0.35 floor area ratio, or FAR, in land unit K of the I-95 corridor area, a corridor industrial area of the comprehensive plan. Planning objectives recommended for the industrial area to retain suitable locations for industrial uses while also providing various means to achieve goals for mitigating the potential for adverse impacts on the area's transportation systems and the environment. More specifically, adopted plan guidance for development in land unit K recommends an overall orientation toward industrial uses at the baseline intensity of 0.35 FAR in order to maintain the number of peak hour trips generated from uses with access to Loisdale Road to levels that do not require the road to be widening. And these parcels are parcels 4 and 5 at the southern portion of the site are both zone I3. The conceptual images on this slide are from the development plan which was revised through September 7th, 2021, and submitted for review with the zoning applications that are being concurrently reviewed concurrently. The current design proposes a maximum height of 40 feet and an approximately 35,500 square foot building at a approximately 0.10 floor area ratio that would be dedicated to vehicle sales, display, and service, and with 17,000 square feet of cellar space that does not count toward the overall intensity of the structure. Parking and vehicle storage is proposed in a paved surface lot to the north and a 2-level parking structure to the east. Other development features that are proposed and shown here in the drawing on the right include the limits of clearing and disturbance, stormwater management facilities, an extension of an existing pedestrian and bicycling trail, and an interparcel access point connecting the proposed parking lot with those of the 3 dealerships that are located just to the south. Under the baseline plan recommendation for public parks, parcel 3 would likely have 0 square feet of development. However, development under the plan option for office use recognizes the underlying C2 limited office district zoning and existing entitlement on this portion of the site. It carries the potential to develop with nearly 60,000 square feet in office use. The plan potential for industrial uses on parcels 4 and 5 remains the same across both scenarios that are shown in the chart, because neither of these sites are recommended with the plan option for any alternative uses or higher intensity above the baseline of 0.35 FAR. To help reduce the need for future widening of Loisdale Road, the adopted plan guidance for land unit K recommends that the daily number of vehicular trips generated during peak hours from alternative uses should be maintained at levels that can be considered as net neutral when compared to industrial uses at the baseline of 0.35 FAR. When compared to the development potential under the plan option and entitlement for office uses on parcel 3 and the baseline industrial uses on parcels 4 and 5, the proposed plan amendment for vehicle sales and service will result in an overall increase of two vehicular trips per day. However, the daily peak hour trip generation would be reduced by a total of 97 vehicle trips, with 68 fewer morning or AM trips and 29 fewer evening or PM trips. Although parcel 3 is not located in the I-95 corridor industrial area, consolidation with parcels 4 and 5 is a key factor in staff's analysis because of the proposal's ability to reduce the number of peak hour trips below the comprehensive plan's target of net neutrality for vehicular trips when compared to the baseline for industrial use. A key component considered in staff's analysis is the adopted plan goals for the proposed use to achieve compatibility with the nearby low-density residential development in Loisdale Estates and also to Loisdale Park through appropriate buffering and transitions. Because this site currently exists in a naturally wooded state, the analysis also sought ways to mitigate the potential for environmental impacts of the development. The adopted plan identifies the Acatine Creek watershed as being in a degraded condition, and the county has various stream restoration and water quality improvement projects underway in this area. Therefore, efforts to balance the amount of open space maintained on the site with impervious coverage and solutions for the detention of and treatment of stormwater are major considerations in the analysis of the potential for development on the subject site. Although the transportation analysis was largely focused on the need for achieving trip neutrality when compared to the development potential envisioned by the current guidance of the adopted plan, opportunities to improve access to the adjacent sites and existing and planned options for multimodal transportation also weighed into the considerations of the plan amendment. Staff is recommending that the comprehensive plan be amended to add an option that would allow the subject site to be developed as a vehicle sales and service center. Staff's analysis determines that that development under the proposed option will only be appropriate through the implementation of recommended conditions for establishing a substantial buffer and compatibility with nearby uses, achieving net neutral trip generation as compared to the current development potential, maintaining adequate open space and tree preservation areas, managing the amount of impervious coverage on the site, and also providing stormwater management facilities and related improvements that will exceed the minimum standards. The plan amendment staff report was published to the county's website on September 29th, and the Lee District Land Use Committee voted in favor of it on last Monday, October 4th. The Planning Commission is scheduled to hold its public hearing on next Wednesday, October 20th, and the Board of Supervisors public hearing is scheduled for November 9th. And that's a Tuesday. If the board votes to adopt the plan amendment, the Planning Commission's public hearing for the rezoning application is expected to be held on a yet to be determined date in January of 2022. Thank you for your time. This includes staff's presentation and Lynn Strobel, who's a land use attorney with Walsh Colucci, Lubley, and Walsh PC, is also joining us tonight to provide an overview of the project on behalf of the property's owner.
Thank you, Steve. And I think that our attendee, Jerry Frazier, has participated in at least some of the meetings that we've had with Loisdale Estates. So I think he's probably familiar with this proposal, but I'm happy to share with Jerry and anybody else who might join us just a very brief presentation. I'll probably shorten it up a little bit. If you would allow me to share my screen.
Sure.
Okay.
It should be working too.
Okay. You guys see it? Okay. I'm just going to actually, I'm going to skip over, I think, some of these first slides because I think that Steve did a very thorough presentation describing the existing zoning of the property and the existing comprehensive plan. And as you know, we began this process looking to develop an automobile dealership, and as well as going through a rezoning and a special exception, we had to pursue an amendment to the comprehensive plan. I think you're aware of the approved development on the site. I was just going to spend a few moments on this just to refresh you on our proposed plan and maybe point out a few changes that we've made based on the discussions that we've had. So as Steve mentioned, the proposal, and this is really going to be the subject of the rezoning and the special exception, but I bring it to your attention only to show how we've been working with staff and meeting their recommendations for the comprehensive plan. So this proposal continues to be for an automobile dealership, about 35,500 square feet. are in that building. That building would have a showroom and offices. It would have service and parts and reception area. So it would be a typical automobile dealership. The FAR is a 0.1128, and it's a relocation of an existing Sheehy dealership that's located in downtown Springfield. So I'm just going to point out a few things. I'm going to start maybe at the top of the page, like kind of at 12 noon, and I'm going to go clockwise and just kind of describe some of the features of this plan. So we've talked a lot, with the community about maintaining a good buffer to the north. There are existing trees there, and I think the thought was to make sure that we have a good buffer. We've expanded it as we've gone through this process. Our setback now to the north is a minimum of 106 feet, but when you get a little bit closer to the east, towards Loisdale Estates, it's about 131 feet. So we're maintaining that significant buffer to the north. Going around the site, kind of to plan right to the east, we have made sure that we've got good setbacks around the periphery. We have a minimum of 32 feet from the property line to the parking, and we've made sure that we're not going to adversely impact any of the existing off-site trees, and we're also kind of heavily planting that shared property line. As we keep going around the site, just noting again kind of some greater setbacks that are being provided proximate to that field. We also have on-site stormwater management. We've worked very hard to make sure that we're addressing all of those concerns. The building itself, as we continue around the property, is located as far to the south as possible to make sure that it is well distanced from Loisdale Estates. We've limited our building height by using kind of the topography of the site. So that building is 1 story against Loisdale Road, and it's 2-story at the rear as we kind of work with the topography and incorporate that parking deck. Continuing around towards the west, you can see that we are providing an interparcel access as was recommended. And as we kind of keep going around, I'd say about 9 o'clock, I'll just point out that we are providing dedication along the frontage of Loisdale Road. We're providing a trail as recommended, and also turn lanes, left and right turn lanes, to make sure that we're not holding up any traffic on Loisdale Road. I like this slide because I think that this demonstrates why we think this is a good idea, because it is a use that is compatible with the character and pattern of development in the area. You can see that there are other car dealerships located to the south. The one difference I think on our side is that we do have a parking lot. So we will have parking, kind of in this deck and being able to preserve more open space on the site. One thing I know that the Loisdale community is very interested in is trip generation, and we've shared this slide before, but I think it kind of helps to graphically understand the impact of traffic. So the blue is the approved and by right uses. The orange is, what is being proposed in accordance with ITE. And what we have found is that by actual traffic counts that Wells and Associates has taken for other dealerships over the years, they actually have found that actual trips are less. And I think that that's something that the community had shared with us, is that the car dealerships have turned out to be a good neighbor because they do generate maybe fewer trips than were even anticipated when they were approved. And just kind of going through the comprehensive plan amendment, which is the subject of our discussion tonight. As I mentioned, we believe that we are meeting all of the conditions that have been suggested by staff in the plan text. This would be an option for vehicle sales and associated service facilities. And the text states that it's approximately a 0.10 FAR, and our proposed FAR is a 0.1128. So we've spoken with staff and we think we fall within that definition of approximately. We have consolidated all 3 parcels that are available. And as I mentioned, we do have less vehicle trips. The conditions include a substantial buffer to the north. We are providing that, as I mentioned, a minimum of about 100 feet. It's more than that in most locations. We are providing on-site stormwater management. We've maintained a lower height and put the building to the south to make sure that there's no impact on the community. We will minimize our lighting and signs. That's really going to be something that you'll see in the proffers when we get to the rezoning stage. And as I mentioned, we have provided interparcel access. So we believe that we are consistent with the plan text as drafted by staff, and the staff does recommend approval. Lastly, just a couple of elevations I will share for this proposal. We certainly, will make sure that this is a high quality dealership and operated kind of consistently with the dealership that's currently in Springfield. So with that, I'm going to sum it up and just say that we are asking the community for favorable consideration of the comprehensive plan text amendment, and that we certainly will be back to talk further about the rezoning and the special exception, the proffers, the development conditions, and we are hopeful that we will have hearings in January in that regard. So thank you for letting me share my screen, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep.
It looks like we have one attendee still, so I will. Hello, Mr. Frazier.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're unmuted.
Wow, finally. How do I turn on the camera?
You're listed as an attendee, but since you're our only attendee, I can make you a panelist, and then you can turn your camera off.
I think
God, I've been trying to fight my controls for the entire time you guys have been talking.
Thank you for being with us tonight. I know you've spent time with us at other meetings, and I'm glad you're here because you're, I think, our only attendee.
Pam Sandy intended to attend, and she has come down sick. She called me about 20 minutes before and said she was liable to fall asleep during this thing. So
Oh my goodness.
she's medicated.
She sent me an email earlier as well, and I sent her a PDF copy of the presentation that was given tonight by staff. So
good, thank you.
I let her know that she can reach back out to me if she has any questions as well, and all the information will also be posted to the plan amendments website. So,
as Ms. Stroh has already said, we've heard a lot of this stuff before. I wish Jim Drinkard was on with us because he's the planning commission, our representative on the planning committee, lead district committee, and he probably knows.
He attended. I just want to point out.
Oh, okay.
He attended the Lee District Land Use Committee last Monday night. So.
Okay, so he's got it all.
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate you trying to keep us informed. I'm quite disappointed that you didn't get more of a turnout from Loisdale, but particularly for those of us who are seldom or maybe even first-time users of WebEx, a little screen map would help to let us know what's going on. I was frantically looking for controls like I have on Zoom and couldn't find them.
I'm sorry. For attendees, usually there's a when there's a larger number of attendees, the access to the full functionality is usually reserved for people who are on the panelist and who are speaking first, and then we call on members of the public. And I had there's a script that I would have read if there was a script I would have read to let everyone know how they can raise their hands and be called on by myself as the host.
Yeah.
But since you're the only attendee, I upgraded you to the panelist class. So
Okay, I'll try not to let it go to my head.
so do you have any questions for staff?
Not at this time. You made a reference to something or other having to do with avoidance of having to make Loisdale Road wider. And I suppose you're aware that there is a VDOT scheme that has been floating around in the system for several years to, in fact, make Loisdale Road 4 lanes. And that would entail buying all of the housing along Loisdale Road and basically tearing it down in order to make room for the road. Needless to say, we are opposed to that. So if there's any way to register that position, please do so. But my sense is that the Fairfax County government is advocating that scheme.
Well, the part of the reason that the comprehensive plan recommends that any uses that are not typical of industrial use has to have similar or fewer, has to create similar or fewer vehicular trips than those typical industrial uses is partly in response to the comprehensive plan recommends that the development along the road should try to avoid creating adding on to the traffic concerns to a level that would require a more immediate need for the widening of the road. So that was one of the reasons why we were able to recommend approval of this site, because we found that the number of trips generated from the proposed site would actually reduce from what the plan potential is for the site with the office use on the northern parcel. And
yeah, I understand. Thank you.
And we have Thomas Burke on with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. He may want to also add to the discussion.
I was just going to say that I'm not familiar with any VDOT plans to widen and take or affect Loisdale. So
it starts at the new intersection with the Frontier Drive. I don't know what they call it, connector or extension or something, which involved a new stoplight on Loisdale Road just north of our subdivision.
yeah, I'm familiar with that. They're doing the design for the Frontier Drive extension, but I'll have to go back and take a look to see how it affects Loisdale. I didn't think, other than the signal, that it would, but I can definitely.
Well, in a nutshell, it hasn't affected it too badly at all up to this point. I'm not sure at what point that Frontier Drive extension is going to be open for all traffic, but the plan that I read from VDOT probably 2.5, 3 years ago now said that left turn traffic, in order to accommodate left turn traffic out of that extension, you would have to have 4 lanes on Loisdale. So, and how far that would go, I don't know. But I've been living here long enough that we only had 2 lanes initially, and then VDOT came in and said, well, we get to squeeze 1 more lane in there and everything will be fine. And I said, until the next time, and this is it. Appears to be.
But
Will Johnson, Wells and Associates, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Just to echo Tom, I don't see anything sort of official on VDOT's website that would indicate any, pending plan for widening Loisdale Road. And again, like Tom, I'm, familiar with the Frontier Drive extension as, currently
Some
out.
of our residents actually received a letter from VDOT that gave them a warning that there might be an effort to purchase their properties.
Oh, interesting.
Gotcha. Well, we're happy to, look further into it. Again, we haven't seen anything on the official channels, but, if you have any information that you can share along those lines, we, certainly be happy to look
I
into it.
never received one of those. I happen to live on the backside of Loisdale, and this house would not have been immediately affected by taking out the all of the houses on Loisdale. But um, it just, when I count the number of north and south traffic lanes from the east side of Loisdale to the west side of Backlick, it looks like there should be adequate room for vehicles to maneuver without adding any more lanes. It's got to be 20.
And I just want to point out, this is Lynn Strobel again. Not surprisingly, Jim Drinker did mention this at the Lee District Land Use Committee, stating like you did, that the Loisdale community very much would oppose something that would require an increase in the number of lanes on Loisdale. And that was one of the reasons why the community was in favor of this particular proposal, because it gave some certainty as to how this property would develop, and it does generate less traffic, so it would not, result in any sort of increased trip generation that would result in possibly the road being widened. And
Indeed.
Will, you might be able to articulate that better than me, but I think that everyone at Lee District appreciated that concern. I know it's been a concern of the community for a long time now, because it would affect houses in the community.
The long past Lee District Supervisor, Joe Alexander, used to sort of shrug his shoulders over the presence of Loisdale at all. He said that we were never supposed to have been here. But
Well,
before the zoning was in place, the developer came in and started building houses.
I don't know how he can say
So-
that, because it's been there. Doesn't your community go back to the 50s?
So did Joe Alexander.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, this house was built in 1958.
Yeah.
So I'll ask Tom Burke. It is the letter that Mr. Frazier mentioned that may have gone out to some of the residents along Loisdale. Is that something we could reach out to VDOT and find out some information on and see if how recent it may have happened or anything like that?
It was several years ago.
Oh, okay.
I got on the VDOT website myself a couple of times and was able to locate, I don't know what you call it, but in the military we would call it a scheme that laid out what was going, the intention of what would be done in a given project. And I don't recall that it made reference to those letters, but some of the neighbors that we have now received the letters. So I know it happened.
I can check in with our capital projects section. Capital projects is coordinating with or liaising with, if that's the word, with VDOT on the project, so I can find out what they know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too much, but maybe it has something to do with the Hot Lanes project on I-95. It might have been more of a standard, operating procedure. But again, that's speculation purely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to take our eye off the ball with this development that the meeting is about, but we tend to bring up these peripheral issues because one thing leads to another inevitably.
Well, thank you, Mr. Frazier. Do you have any more questions or any comments?
Did I see that this presentation was recorded?
Yes, sir. It's being
Is it
recorded.
going to be available for later viewing?
It will be posted to the plan amendment website, and I didn't get a chance to put that website in the into the presentation yet, but I will pull it up very quickly and let's see.
Is it a
Share it to
long
my
URL?
screen.
I tell you what, do you have my email address?
Yes, sir. I have your email address, and I actually when I sent the letters out, and also when I sent the email to yourself and the other members of the board for the Civic Association.
Yeah.
I think I had a link to the I think there was a link to the website in that email, and I can send you all. I can send copies of the presentation to you from the night, along with the link to the link to the website. It may take a few days for the video for this video to be
To get
be
posted?
posted. Yes, sir. But
Well, that would be great. If you
okay,
would do that, I'd appreciate it.
I can definitely do that. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Frazier, and thank everyone from staff who joined us. And also, I'd like to thank Lynn and the team with Sheehy for the presentation tonight and helping to answer some questions. And with that, I don't see that any additional attendees or neighbors of the site have joined. So I think we can end the community meeting.
Okay. Lynn, I will send you a separate email on a slightly different subject.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, thanks.
And if you'd like my presentation, I'm happy to email that to you too. It's up to you.
I may actually have that one. I'm not sure.
You may.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time tonight. Thanks for being here. It's appreciated. Thank you.
I didn't intend to be the Lone Ranger, but I'm glad I'm here anyway.
I'm glad we had somebody here. That's good.
I'm glad you were here so we could get it started and have the meeting. So with that, thanks again, everyone, and good night.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.